Finally, it's time to do a video on Reddit again. I promised you guys one, but the research, it took a lot longer than expected. I did a meeting with the agency rep at Reddit to have the ads product explained to me, and then I pitched it to a company in Sweden. So what did I learn about ads, and what can we learn from this as investors? Well, ads is the segment that's driving this massive growth for Reddit. It's primarily from the US market right now, so they have a lot of growth still in international. They recently had earnings. We saw the fastest growth in 3 years, so just a massive beat, and a stock price reacted accordingly. If you were in the Discord, you know that I sold the Google shares that I got vested from working at Google and bought some more Reddit right before earnings, and I still plan to buy more Reddit as soon as I'm done with the Road to $100,000 dividend portfolio challenge, where I take a portfolio from $0 to $100,000 as quickly as possible, just to see how fast I can do it if I had to do it all over again. So Reddit here, massive beat. Market cap now above 30 billion, 35 billion. Still a small player compared to some of the other advertising giants. However, as some of you guys pointed out in the Discord, not another Porch group. It's harder to scale. Yes, indeed, it's harder to scale when you're at this size. It's not impossible, and it's easier when you're a software company, an ads company, an AI company. It's a lot easier to scale, and that's why companies like this get the multiples that they get. So the revenue growth and the scalability that they have. They just have a few servers that run. In Reddit's case, they have a deal with AWS that we learned about in the AWS earnings call. So using some cloud there to host, it's not super expensive, and they charge a lot for ads. They're profitable. They're making good money. All right, speaking of ads, because that's the segments that's driving stock price higher, it's still not mature. We can take a look at some of the ad units. I think that's a good way to start. We can compare it a bit to Google. And we can talk about the Reddit pitch in general and the sales structure. There's a lot to dig into here, basically. But in front of you, you see a document on the ad unit types that you can advertise via on Reddit. If you're a user of the platform, you recognize a few of this. And if you've used, for example, Meta ads or Google ads, you recognize some of the naming conventions as well. For example, carousel that we see a bit further down here. Promoted post, just like Facebook, you get it in there. You've seen a few of this. You can promote video as well, so static image or a video image, just different creatives to drive different results. Good to see. We see the carousel unit as well. That's the one where you click on a little arrow and you change through pictures. Who's really clicking this? Well, you'd be surprised. For the female demographic, it's more than half that click on these carousel ads on Facebook, for example. So they get a lot of interactions. Conversation placement, you get a comment, you get down there in the action where the discussion is happening. And then we see, of course, front page takeover, trending takeover, and the one that I think is quite interesting is category takeover, because let's say that you're a video game company and you decide to take over the video game Reddit. Well, that's just good targeting, and it's hard to miss your target audience in cases like that. There's a lot of work to be done still in terms of measurement and tracking for Reddit. Of course, they have the pixel that's similar to the Facebook one. It can be integrated. there's some need for clearer understanding of, for example, bot filters. This has been an issue that has plagued the advertising industry for a long time. This is not something new. This has been the case since insertion orders on, iOS, on classical websites such as, for example, Wall Street Journal, or in Sweden we have Aftonbladet, where salespeople from those institutions would call out to customers directly to get a placement on display ad, as it was called back then, still is called. And in recent time they would track behind, allegedly, not naming any specific companies here, just in general, okay? And then they would track behind the promised delivery of impressions, and then all of a sudden, boom, 20,000 impressions, just enough to be, delivering the promised amount of views or impressions in this case. And is it bots? Is it not? It's a problem. There's a lot of allegations like this in the industry. And what companies have to do internally, the marketing division to the other divisions, is that they have to defend ad spend. They have to point at profitability. And measurement and tracking is a very important part here. It's one of the reasons why Google is quite successful in the space. They have very good measurement and tracking, and you're able to see the results of the advertising. And this can be used to defend the ad spend internally. They're not always succeeding, of course. Companies are cutting back. They were not very happy with GA4, for example. But, they have a lot more mature one than, for example, Reddit in this case. But as Reddit grows, as they continue to develop, I think this will be less and less of an issue. And with the pixel and with the tweaks, they will get there for sure. They're getting more ad units. We're seeing more type of ads placements that we haven't seen before. And I think that they are just early in terms of setting up the ad sales structure, setting up the type of pitch, setting up the type of help that advertising agencies such as E2 Advanced AI, go check them out on LinkedIn if you need help with Reddit ads or Google ads, might need. For example, in this case with Reddit ads and the ads pitch, on the first meeting it would be like 88% of the audience on Reddit is not available on other traditional media. And, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, all right, this is nice. But do I really care? No. And I will tell you exactly why. Because at the end of the day, what matters is results, it's dollars and cents. It's selling toothbrushes and handbags. It's getting bang for your bucks on those advertising dollars. So it's cool and all that you have a unique audience, but at the end of the day, it's all about selling that product. Are these ads converting? We can follow click-through rate, cost per click. These are common metrics today. I think it's good for awareness. I think you can get cheap eyeballs. But in terms of development, I would like to see conversion tracking, the actual purchase being able to be tracked more diligently. And for you to be able to bid on conversions like you can in Google rather than just bidding on clicks. And this is one of those things that's needed today in more mature markets, at least. It can be very difficult to go up against, like I did, for example, Meta and Google agencies that were handling the ad spend for this company, quite a large Swedish company that I pitched against, trying to get just, $1,000 test for a month, in this case, on ad spend on Reddit to see if it would drive conversions. But in this case, I lost that pitch because the representatives of, for example, the agency that did the Google ads, they were able to show on a graph, they have this measurement and tracking, and they could show projected conversions, projected sales out in the future on a graph, and they could show that with current ad spend, you're still not on the part of the curve that's sloping more horizontally. It's still a bit exponential, so you can get more bang for your buck by increasing ad spend on Google. Fantastic, no need to try something new, just pump some more money into Google and Meta also in this case, and continue there. And once that's mature, then perhaps we will get back to you, Andreas, and we can try Reddit in that case and see if we get some good results from there. So very, very difficult to compete against that measurement, but I think that Reddit will get there because a lot of companies are having good results. They have some good case studies that's clearly profitable for the companies. And when the company is this young in advertising, there is also a massive first mover advantage for companies to get in there and start advertising, because impressions will generally be cheaper than platforms that are more saturated by bidding. For example, this is one of the major criticisms that I have against Google. I think that the price of impressions is just increasing year on year on year. The floor price is just getting higher, and it's squeezing the margins out of advertisers. Yes, indeed, it's still profitable, but you can't just keep on raising floor price forever. If you want to continue to grow, well, you need more impressions as well. Yes, indeed, this is great on YouTube, but a few years ago they stopped reporting impressions on Google search, and they have not done that for a long time. Reddit, they can still talk about impressions, they can still talk about user growth. This is why Wall Street is so laser focused on user growth. Ahead of every earnings call, they talk about this, and they will continue to talk about it because it's a proxy for impressions. We're also seeing the revenue per user increasing in this case. Of course, the platform is getting a bit more saturated by ad units, but it's still a long, long way to go. Long time ago, a young Andreas wrote his thesis on the saturation of ads on Facebook. It had still not been renamed to Meta, and that's how old I am as a dinosaur. But I remember counting on the Instagram feed that every fourth post was an ad. As you're watching this video, you can redo that counting for yourself and see how many normal posts until there's an ad. Of course, this will differ from geography to geography as well, but the platform is getting more saturated. That's one way to increase impressions. Reddit is not very saturated at all. It's not a lot of ads. There's a lot of levers that they can crank to increase growth, and there's no rush. They can make more of the posts an ad. They can place ads on a lot of different locations. They could place ads in the search. They could place a carousel type ad at the top of the page for shopping if you search for certain things. Direct product listings. For example, you search for an e-bike. They could have e-bikes at the top, shopping style, just like Google Shopping. There's a ton of future growth opportunities. The ad units that I'm showing on screen, and the reason for me showing them is because it reminds me a lot of early Facebook. All right, this is early Facebook type stuff, and they're still growing like this. I will definitely be buying more shares, that's for sure. And these category takeovers reminds a bit about masthead takeover on YouTube. A bit harder to pitch, but I think that category takeover makes a lot more sense. Own top communities in your selected category for 24 hours. I think that that's a good way to hit the target audience for a mid to enterprise sized companies, for sure. Makes sense there. Small businesses, of course, have other ways with more of the traditional ad units here on top. But that's been a bit more of a deep dive into the advertising side on Reddit. If you want me to expand on some topic, feel free to comment below or join the Discord. We have a lot of people in there now and some good discussions going. Especially one that pointed out, the market cap of Reddit, how large it is and how this might impact growth. Yes, indeed. Not small cap type. Not easy to make 100-bagger when you're this large already. But for wealth preservation and for growing, in my opinion, slightly faster than the S&P 500, I think that they can outperform index given growth, given scalability, given profitability, and just understanding the business and seeing the massive growth opportunities, seeing the US focus. They can focus on international, they can do more ad units, they can do more tracking. There's just so many levers to crank, as I said. There's so much future growth to be had, and I mean, it does not take a genius to realize that with all of the people getting fired, the engineers from Meta, engineers from Google, what's management at Reddit gonna do? They just gonna snap up some of that talent that has developed, coded ads, tracking, all of these things for other major advertising giants, and they're gonna be able to copy it, and bada bing, bada boom, we have a very nice product, and it's just gonna keep growing. That's my opinion at least, and that's been it for this video. And as always, hope you guys make a ton of money, whatever investments you decide to make. Take care now. Bye bye.